No Church Church. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming this morning, Robbie. We have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
My first thing to hit you on the head with, Hammerjack, is, obviously there's a lot going on with Kanye and stuff like that. But, it was interesting to me because you said you just kind of always thought Kanye was a spiritual person. Now, you yourself don't commit to one doctrine or another of a church. You basically call yourself a spiritual independent person.
Yeah.
And so, like, you see, and you even said it's almost to a sense that Kanye's doing a reboot on what he's already been professing for the last 6 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about that.
I mean, yeah, I was watching, you hear a lot on the internet about different things that are occurring. And particularly on Facebook, I saw a lot of conversations about Kanye West. And I think, Kanye West talks a lot about mental illness. And I think that mental illness is a term that society gives geniuses that are not understood by the majority of the world. If I come in right now and I start talking, I could only imagine thinking that my tribe was the only tribe that existed. And then I started to travel the world. And then I came across these group of people and they were saying, and I'm like, these people are crazy.
Right.
But
to them, they're actually having a conversation.
Absolutely.
They're communicating, and they could even be doing algebra or calculus. Or,
Absolutely.
So just because their words that they're using for the insight of the revelation of things that they have doesn't sound correct to us.
Absolutely.
It sounds foreign, and then we diminish it.
Absolutely. And I think that's what Kanye West went through. So mental breakdowns happens when... have you ever seen a person that had a supportive cast have a mental breakdown? I haven't. Mental breakdowns usually happen when you have something in your mind that the rest of the world isn't receiving. And so your brain starts to fire because it's all about feedback that we're getting from people. So if I tell you something right now, you disagree with everything I have to say. And if I experience more people like you that continue to disagree with me on a consistent basis, I'm getting feedback from the world saying something's wrong. And then I start internalizing that. I start to shut down, and all of a sudden, boom, mental breakdown. And so I say all that to say, I think, everybody's really hyped up about Kanye West's new, his new introduction to Christianity, his new cape that he's wearing proudly. But he did it years ago. Years ago he came out with an album called Yeezus, where his followers were rewriting the Bible and replacing the word Jesus with Yeezus. So he made a song years ago called Jesus Walks. This is nothing new. What he's doing now, you could even say that years ago, his ego caused him to try to create a cult-like following. I think he tried to create his own religion, and it failed. It had backlash. And just like anything else, when you have backlash on top of emotional, financial, and mental breakdowns, you're more likely to just say, all right, abort mission, let me subscribe to a tribe. And I think because it's trial and error, when you try something and you fail over and over again, it's only so much you can take before you just start to break down a lot of times. But one thing I did gain from Kanye West, this interview I watched with him and Big Boy, not so much about the religion part of it, but his disassociation with the culture. And I was very excited about that because the interviewer was trying to keep Kanye inside of a black box.
Black culture box.
Exactly. And Kanye said, man, I've been done with that. I don't even know what that is. And it felt so, to me, it felt like, and I'm not saying Kanye is free because he's now Christian. One may perceive it that way. But I think he's free. It looked like a free slave talking to a slave that's still slave. Mm. Because the guy even said, don't forget about us, Kanye. Mm. And to me, I'm like... Ooh.
His mindset saying, we're still slaves.
Yeah, his mindset saying, don't forget about black culture.
Right.
Well, Kanye West, he's thinking, I'm all about the world, man. I'm like, I'm not even about just one particular culture. I'm way past that stage. So I thought that was an interesting concept.
If you don't mind, I'm going to backtrack a little bit on other conversations I've had with people. It's interesting that you brought up mental illness. You know, Justin Young was in here the other day, and he says more people in the church have mental illness than we even realize. They're suffering because, and now it makes sense when you said it, because basically they're trying to live this life through a doctrine.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is that we're not even supposed to, right? So if you really believe in Jesus Christ, took away the sins of the world, then why are you coming every Sunday and confessing all the sins you did? So it's almost like doctrine is forcing on top of you that you're wicked, you're bad, you're no good, God doesn't accept you, church doesn't accept you, nobody accepts you. And so you're constantly trying to have to fight for yourself, you know, for your righteousness, for who you are, for who you want to be, and be free from all of that when you're already free. But so the church is putting mental illness on people because basically they constantly are telling you you are no good.
That's exactly what it is. And, you know, that's the hurtful part about it. To me, it's more hurtful than anything because there are so many good people out there and they'll die feeling like they were never good enough.
I mean, that's and I know that God never meant for anybody to live like that. That's why he sent Jesus Christ. You know? I mean, how do you send your only begotten son to die on the cross so that people for the rest of their lives feel ashamed of themselves?
That's the thing. Like, so you think about it, and I'm not, when I speak about, I'm very mindful because I know where I am and I know that we are in the Bible Belt. I know that we are. So when I speak about anything related to spirituality, even if it's appear to be a radical thought, I'm not making a mockery of anyone but I genuinely feel sorry because I feel bad. Because if you look at the population that occupies a church, there's something that happened that they feel bad about somewhere in life. The majority of there's not a person that's just like, everything's great in my life. I don't have anything to be ashamed of, but I'm still showing up here every day. Because you don't show up, if you're completely cured from, let's say you had a drug addiction. If you're completely done with drugs, you don't continue to show up to AA meetings. Mm. You just don't continue to show up. And so if you accept the fact that Jesus died for your sins, which means he took them away, let's just say if you subscribe to that, if he's died for your sins, then it's not saying, hey, let's everybody shoot up heroin and just have, you know, the wild, wild west again. That's what most people think. Oh, I got to keep doing this because if we don't keep, you know, professing our sins and being and worshiping as we do, then it's just going to turn into the wild, wild west again. It's not that. A lot of the chaos that you see inside of people in the world today are people that have not been delivered from the idea that they are sinners. What's the original sin? Being born, right?
Well, everybody was born into sin. So right.
Which is the original sin.
Well, yeah. So, you did nothing to become a sinner.
Exactly.
You know, so yeah.
Exactly. So they got you from the door.
Right.
Like the fact that you even were introduced into this physical plane made you pretty much a bad person.
Right. 100%.
But yet reincarnation is not real. So how am I bad for something that I haven't even done yet, unless there is reincarnation or something of that nature, and I did something tremendously horrible in my past lives that I need to be forgiven for. If it was that, then I'd be more likely to say, you know what, maybe right. I can't prove that I didn't come here. But if this is my first time around and Jesus was on the earth plane 2,000 years ago, and this is my first time around, why do I have to pay for sins that I haven't even created yet? Why am I a sinner just because I was born in 1983?
2,000 years after Jesus. Well, you know, we're hitting a lot of rabbit trails. I don't mind. Let's take this rabbit trail. To me, the Bible in Romans says that because of one man's unrighteousness, all have become unrighteous.
Yeah.
But then it says, how much more is one man, Jesus' righteousness, does all man become righteous? And so for me, and that's where I'm starting to say these questions is, if all are unrighteous, and then you have this wonderful act of Jesus Christ, all become righteous, it wasn't because I stopped drinking, I stopped doing drugs, I stopped cussing, stopped beating my wife, I started going to church, started tithing. It was nothing because of actions. And it even wasn't to the action of my choice of saying I agree with God. And I think sometimes even the church says this, where if you leave church, now you've turned your back on God. God's turned his back on you, which is also a doctrine.
Yeah.
It's not truth. It is not truth. But here's what you were talking about. You had said that Kanye West tried to build his own culture, and I think it was because he didn't like the domination doctrine.
Absolutely.
And so he's like, man, there's got to be another way to this Jesus thing.
Absolutely.
And so he put it out, and the timing wasn't right for it. And I believe it was because of the grace message. You know, obviously there's 65 million people who've left the church. They don't like something about the doctrine, the nomination, the things that they're hearing also. And so Pastor Dale even wrote 25, myths exposing church and lies. And now he's starting to write another book. And so we have all these questions, and through the grace message coming up, saying, why is this true? You yourself sit there and say, how can I be a sinner if Jesus died for the world? And so... And
I'm on the outside looking in.
And you're on the outside looking in. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying is there's obviously questions and we're finding answers. And lots of us, like Kanye West and others, even this podcast, are saying there's got to be another way than church and doctrine. Yeah. There's got to be another better way to Jesus. Can we just not go into a field, a church? Can we just not meet whoever wants to show up? Can we just worship the Lord and not have to take a tithe?
Yeah.
For me, I feel like this is creating a paradigm shift of it's not about the church that you go to enter into praise and worship with the Lord.
Yeah.
It's about the people around you that you're connecting with. And I think even to the degree that Jesus brought it down to such a point of any two of you meet, there am I. So basically this morning, you and I are meeting, there's Jesus. He didn't say, even the 200 of you that go into a church building on Sunday, stay there for 2 hours, so will I come. And I've heard it all the time in churches. They're like, please come, Lord. Please come, Lord.
And see, my whole, I was thinking about, the fact that, for me, this is where I am with it. On my podcast, Self Mastery Radio, on my podcast, I was talking about, because even with Kanye's new conviction, automatically he started being judgmental.
Kanye.
Absolutely. Where he was talking about, it's just, he said, well, you can say you're a good person all you want, but I'll see you in hell. And I'm like, damn, Kanye. And then he was saying, and then you had some people saying, well, I'm surprised that so many, Christians are backlashing Kanye West. I would see on Facebook, you think he's really saved or this and that and that. And I said, well, it fits the mold perfectly. The reason why it fits the mold perfectly is because most people who subscribe to any tribe or any doctrine naturally believes that their point of view is the point of view that the whole entire world should adopt. And if Kanye West is saying that he's a Christian, but his version of Christianity doesn't match my doctrine, I'm now questioning his validity. And so my mindset is this. When I looked at the Kanye West interview, I saw a man that, in my humble opinion, he's genuinely on the path to Christianity, what he perceives to be that. I don't think he's doing it for publicity stunt. I think he hit a wall. And I don't know what's going on inside of his mind, of course, and I can't validate if he's really genuine. But from what I saw, he hit a wall. I mean, and everybody that if you go to the military, the first thing they do is take you out of your normal situation. And they break you down so they can build you back up. Well, in the terms of Kanye West, the world was the military. They broke him down, and now he's being built back up. And so what I think he sees a loophole. He's not crazy. It's just like everybody knows Donald Trump is not really, really, really hardcore Christian, but he knows his audience is. And so if I'm a mastermind, all I got to do is say, God, Jesus, Bible, and I can get everybody to vote for me, because that's the audience. The audience that votes is the audience that's in church most of the time. And if I want more votes, if I want more people to root for me, all I got to do is start throwing those words around.
Well, for me, like, I think where you were talking about people denying Kanye, church doctrinal people have their checklist. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, tither, churchgoer. Oh, you like this, you like that. But then on the checklist, it comes up and, it says, have you gone to Bible school? No.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a check against you.
Yeah.
Oh, do you tithe? No. Oh, are you married? Hold on, you're living with a woman, but you're not married.
Yeah.
Oh, check against you.
Are you gay?
Are you gay?
Yeah.
Check against you. And what happens is we check against people and say, no, they can't be Christian because they're gay.
Yeah.
They can't be Christian because they're married. They can't be Christian because they still smoke. They can't be Christian because of this. Instead of, for me, it's like, just let's give them one check. Oh, you believe in Jesus? Check.
Yeah.
There is no other checklist. But for me, Christianity is black and white, or it's my doctrine. If you either match my doctrine, then you're checked correctly, or you don't match my doctrine, you don't check correctly. So back to Kanye, in this move, Kanye doesn't feel like, and I think this should be a challenge to pastors and churches, Kanye doesn't feel like he has a place in church because he hasn't gone. I even heard church pastors say, how do you think Kanye should have the pulpit in front of the people? He's not right as a leader. How's he going to pastor people? And I'm like, Kanye's not asking to pastor people. He's not saying, let me help you. He's saying, follow me as I follow Jesus, But see, pastors think differently about things. They have a checklist of what a pastor looks like, what a pastor does. I actually had a pastor one time. He was trying to insult me by saying, you don't know, you can't be a pastor or think like a pastor or want to be a pastor or anything with this podcast, because he says, well, you've never buried anybody. Well, you've never gone to their baseball games. You've never spent time with the family through their finances and stuff like that. And I'm like, I do that all the time. I help people with finances all the time. I've actually gone to 2 funerals, put my hands on a kid at 7 years old who drowned in the water and tried to raise him from the dead. I did the same thing for another kid who died on the football field at 16. Don't tell me what I've not done for your checklist.
There.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. doctrinal people have these checklists to approve themselves and check everybody else off.
We can justify everything we want to justify.
I thought it was all about Jesus. Why are we checklisting what you can do or not do? Let's just stop looking at you and me and let's look at Jesus.
Yeah, and with you want to hear a crazy prediction?
I do. I like crazy predictions.
I'm borderline. The way I think could easily just be classified as insanity. If I allow myself to really, really go there. A lot of the reason that I don't go there is because what's the point? But I have a wild prediction that Kanye West will become the Donald Trump of spirituality.
I do too. There's a prophecy that Kim Clement put out a couple years ago, and Kim Clement's phenomenal. The things that he says in the way they come true are like huge, earth-shaking things. And he said this. He says there's going to be a move of God from the most unholy people. And my original thought I was thinking, well, unholy, right? Non-churchgoers. And then I was like, well, that's gay community. That's celebrities. That's, basically people who aren't in church. Like, what else would unholy mean? Basically the people in church, they think they're righteous, they're holy, they're all these good things. And not that Kanye is unholy, but in the church's eyes, doctrinal checklist, he is. And when it happened, I said, oh my God, there it is.
Untraditional.
You listen to his music, you feel the presence of God. You see his heart just raw and radical, and I hope he never changes. I was thinking about this thing. I don't know if you guys know this story, but John the Baptist, right? So John the Baptist is out in the wilderness, and he's got this cloak on, and he's got it backwards so it's itching his skin. He's eating locusts, and he's talking about this guy's going to come. It was Jesus. John the Baptist looked radically different than everybody else. So John the Baptist was not the traditional church-going guy sitting in the pew, listening to the leaders, elders, and all that, tithing, doing all these things. He's radically different, and people were coming out to him and being baptized.
Yeah.
They weren't in the temple that was comfortable that everybody else was in, that was pushing the tradition of the Jews. He was in the wilderness outside. And for as soon as I saw Kanye outside the church, I said, this is it. This is the move that God was talking about, the most unholy thing. And I think it's going to be huge and big. I mean, you got to think about, there's 65 million people outside of church now who really, really believe in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. They're looking for somewhere to go. They're looking for John the Baptist to follow. I would like to say that too, but I would like them to also look within and follow the Jesus within and start their own movement in their own community, start their own Bible study, start their own home church, start their own ministry. Like, I think we looked so much on the eyes of the church that we missed the eyes that God's given us to have on our community, on our neighbors, on our loved ones, and, people around us. We think that the church should do it. And I'm saying, I think it's the time where Jesus is saying, you should do it. It went from the temple with the Jews to the 12 disciples who had no training. Yeah. They had no biblical training. They didn't go to Bible college. They didn't do any of these things. And so Jesus is making relationships with people outside the church to do the work of the church. And I think that's where we're at today. I think this whole thing is going to be totally shifted. I think there's going to be church after church shutting down.
So what I think too is that we're moving into a world, like, what I would like to see more of is you think about this. Why is mental illness such a big thing in America right now? Just why? And a lot of it has to do with self-image. A lot of it has to do with self-esteem. A lot of it has to do with feeling like you're not worthy, feeling like you are unheard, that nobody understands what you're going through. Nobody sees the world the way you see it. And what I would like to see more than anything right now, I would like to see more people starting to understand that inside of yourself. Because if we do church outside eventually becomes the church inside again. It's new in the beginning, but the more we do it, it becomes the norm. And so what I would like to see people do is it's kind of like my relationship with my wife. I couldn't marry her until I already felt whole. I didn't want to marry her so that she completed me. I wanted to be already the total package when we finally decided to do it. And I would like to see more whole people come together and celebrate life, not broken people. It's easy to be broken. It's easy to think something's wrong with you. I want to see whole people who already feel like, you know what, I'm whole. But today, like when I'm with Ricky and we're throwing Frisbee, this, to me, I'm a whole person throwing Frisbee with another spirit, and I'm celebrating life in that moment. Like, and to me, I think if we spend so much, if we spend our whole lives on our knees, we'll never get to look around and see the beauty that has already been delivered for us. So I want to see more people just like, for instance, here's the deal. As my children get older, and I love my children with all my heart, they are a big part of why I've become the man that I am today, and the reason why I strive to be better and better each day. But never do I want them to worship me the rest of their lives. You should worship me. I'm the reason why you're here. And if me as a human entity who can bring another human into the physical plane, I can call another human being into existence.
Right.
And if I don't want my children to worship me and to just, Dad, thanks, you're great today. Dad, let me tell you again how great you are today. Hey, Dad, thank you for all of this.
Or Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I really don't think the creator of the universe cares that you worship him every day. I just think that if you're going to worship and show appreciation, let me enjoy the work that you've already created for me. Let me take advantage of this opportunity that I have to be alive right now. Let me put my best self forward today. I mean, we were talking about love language last night when you guys left, and my love language is affirmation. And I like to tell my wife that I love her. I tell her that every day. I've been telling her that every day for 10 years. I love you. You're just the most beautiful woman in the world. Oh my goodness, I'm glad you're home. That's the way I show her that, one of the ways I show her that I appreciate her. And I think the tradition of worship has the love language of Christianity primarily for most people is words of affirmation.
That's good.
And I think that now I think it's time for us to just dust ourselves off, get off our knees, not in an arrogant way, but let's entertain the other love languages. Let's experience. Let's show. If you tell me you're a Christian and you're a dirty person, you try to get over on people all the time, you're all about yourself, you to the public you look like you got it all together, but behind closed doors you're a cracked out junkie. I don't care if you're a Christian. I only want to deal with you if you are somebody that adds value to my life. If I the same person I see in public is the same person I want to see behind closed doors. And
you've said that about working with people. And
absolutely.
Stuff like that. You're at the degree now where you could notice that and you're like, no amount of money is worth trying to work with somebody.
And I think that's the thing with the blanket statement of I'm a Christian or I'm a this or I'm a that. I know people that cheat on their wives or people that cheat on their husbands.
In church.
people that, do drugs behind closed doors, people that drink and drive, people that, exactly, but they can get in front of people and say, oh, I'm a Christian. And you're so fake. You're fake.
I had a pastor the other day, we were hanging up, and he says, I watch porn. And then he hung up. And I was like, what just happened? And I was like, call him back. But what you're saying is basically, there's a scripture in the New Testament. And it basically says, in him I live, I move, and I have my being.
Just be real.
And it's not, in him do I have my doctrine. In him do I have my sanctity of what my church tells me I'm going to live forever. It's I live, I move, and I have my being. It's pure, it's innocent, but we forgot that. We forgot that as mankind living unto the Lord, we're in him. We move, we live, we're happy. I don't pray nearly as often as I used to, but
hold on.
Let me say, I'll do this, and you can hit it. Because the terminology of prayer for me was, Lord, do this for me. Lord, do that for me. Lord, make sure this doesn't happen. Lord, protect me. Lord, do this. And I just found it was almost a wish list. So for me, when I pray, it's no longer praying. It's more like I'm having a conversation with you. Lord, what do you think about this? And sometimes I hear say, yeah, okay, case in point, there's a building down the street. It's about $400,000. And I was like, Lord, I want to go look at that building. He goes, well, you won't buy it. Now, there was nothing religious in that. I just was presenting a conversation of, Lord, what do you think about that building? He goes, well, you won't buy it. And so then I'm like, well, I'm not going to waste my time to go look at the building. And that's about how my conversations go with the Lord. It doesn't happen all the time, all day long. I'm not like, Lord, should I have a cheeseburger today?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, these thoughts, and it's not like I said it out loud and not I hoard an oil voice back. I just kind of in here, like where you're talking about meditation, you said, you pick a part of your body and say, I love you, where there's pain or stuff like that. You speak to your body. I feel like I'm a spirit being, you're a spirit being. And so when we speak inside of us, we're speaking from that spirit point, and that was kind of the interesting thing to me that you've enlightened me on, where you talk about forgiveness and love, and I'm like, man, those are the two core values of Christianity.
Exactly.
And I'm like, Robbie talks about forgiveness and love all the time, but he doesn't do it in light of a scripture, and he doesn't do it in light of, well, Jesus Christ told me I should forgive and love. He doesn't do it from a standpoint of a doctrine or anything like that. He just uses the word at its core and says, I speak love to my body. I speak forgiveness to my body. And I got to sit there and I got to say, well, the Bible says God is love. So if you're talking love to your body, are you talking the essence of God to your body? I'm just taking
the main ingredients.
I think we get tripped up on, it has to say Jesus Christ who died on the cross as our Lord and personal Savior, that, God now forgives the world for the sins through the love of Jesus. And we basically have, it's a checklist. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
The more words we use, it's the longer we're making our checklist.
Exactly.
So I love when you come at it and you're like, God is love.
Keywords.
I don't need to say God because I'm talking about love and he is that. So here we are. Go on.
Absolutely.
And you start talking about the power of things.
Absolutely. I don't want to get caught up on the story. The story's happened. Like, what's the keywords here? I'm a tech guy. Show me the keywords. The theme behind all of it is this and this and this for me. And so instead of spending all my time, getting caught up in the detail of things, I'm just going to take the main ingredients, apply that to my life, and just live. Like, I just don't want to get caught up with all the other stuff.
Can we talk about something I've been seeing? And I want to, we had a conversation, Kanye, and some things I'm seeing in the world. So you got Hong Kong, they're rioting against the government. You got Iraq, they're rioting against the government. You've got Venezuela rioting against the government. You've got the yellow vests in France rioting against the government. You have Brexit. you have so many of these disruptions happening where they're coming against the government, which is leadership. And then in the United States, you have 65 million people coming against the government of the church and just leaving. Now, the difference is you can leave the church because it's not personally affecting you like a government is in some of these other countries. And so I just see so many dynamic shifts happening. What are you seeing? You came out of the projects. I came out of the projects. I was a single mother, 900 square foot home, no heat, no air, we're poor. Trying to live off one income and stuff like that.
So I think, keyword again, I think the keyword that I'm thinking about right now is community. So in the world of duality, up, down, left, right, good, bad. I think that everything is everything. And what that means to me is community. Community is up and community is down. Community is left, community is right. Community can be good, but community can also be very bad. It can be very good and it can be very bad. And I think it's all dependent on how it's being used. For instance, if I went and filled this cup up with a glass of the purest water, well, now this cup is being used for good. But if I go and fill this cup up with the purest water and I drop little drops of arsenics, what is it? Arsenics?
Arsenic.
Yeah, arsenic in it. Then now this cup is being used for bad. And I think community it's a duality like that. When you talk about the black community, like I don't even know what that, and I'm being wholeheartedly genuine, I don't even know what that means. I know that there are people that do know what that means for them, but I don't.
Right.
I've never operated under that mindset at all. Never understood it, never will, don't even care to. My whole thing has been independence. I'm a free-spirited, free-thinking, spiritual independent. I don't know anything about black culture or white culture. I don't even think white people know about white. What is white culture?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I just live. That's
right.
So when black people talk about black culture, I don't know what that means. When white people talk about black culture, I don't know what that means either. So to me, I'm just a man living. Man, my skin tone doesn't even register in my top 10 thoughts today.
Right.
It doesn't even. It's not like I wake up and I'm like, man, I'm black. Like, what can I do with this blackness today? Look, man, I'm a presence operating a physical vehicle called a body. That's all I know. And so when it comes to now, let's just imagine there was a black community. If we're talking about a black community, let's be honest, we're probably talking about the ghetto.
Well, I mean, like Jet Magazine, basically,
Yeah, but who watches magazines?
But they're like I listen to Charlemagne the God. I mean, he's like pushing it all the time and says things. And I mean, I
don't want to be disrespectful because I just haven't been big on community in my life. That's why I don't know too much about church. I've gone like one time in my whole life. I went once. I'm like, not for me. I've been in the hood. I woke up one day. I was like, nah, not for me. Like, it's better for me as an independent. Like, I'm just an independent. Even when it comes down to politics, man, I really like the Republican Party, but I can't subscribe to it. I'm just an independent because I never want to let the party blind my ability to think freely.
Well, there's that political thing now. It's called Walk Away. And Walk Away is, I believe he's a gay man and Democratic. And it was kind of like that checklist that you had to check off all these things for the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And finally, he just got to the point where he's like, I can't live under your checklist
anymore.
And he started this thing, #WalkAway.
Yeah. I think that if you start a community, even if you have the purest intentions, then your followers will eventually overthrow you, or they'll walk away. Because you're going to die out. Somebody else is going to take your place. And now you got to rely on people that don't even understand the things you're saying from your perspective to relay a message to the world. And I think that's what happened in the case of Jesus. You just got a bunch of messengers, man. And it's just like, what if he came back and was like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what?
Yeah, I heard somebody say the other day, they said, if Paul came back and saw that his letters were being used on a Sunday morning all across the country as this is exactly the way you should live your life. That letter was written to one person, or a situation that was going on. And here we're trying to match all of our life to everything about it.
I can't tell anybody that their Lord and Savior is not Jesus. I can't tell anybody that they're just like I can't tell you that, eating tofu every day is best for your diet. And so what I subscribe to is like, it's easy to think because you had an epiphany or you had a new insight that everybody needs to hear about it. And for me, I operate under the mindset that when I have an epiphany, of course I'm gonna share it. I do that through my podcast. But
what's your podcast again?
SMR, Self Mastery Radio. I'll do it through my podcast, but it's not like I'm saying, subscribe to this. If you don't do this, then you're done. Right. That's that insight that I had was for me to better my life.
And you're looking for people that would find that to better their lives if they do. And if they don't, that's okay fine. Too, because they found something else to better their lives. And that's how I feel for the podcast. Like, I'm like, all right, if this helps you, great. If it doesn't, great.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
I'm going to let my content filter out people.
Right.
I don't want, matter of fact, if I ever met somebody that says, man, everything you say is like, man, I'm all in. I'm like, dude, chill. I don't want nobody. I don't want to talk to people like that. I want to talk to people that my thoughts can inspire them to have their own thoughts.
That's good.
Well,
but that's what, if you think about it, and maybe even the way that I said that or framed those questions or stuff is because like even when you watch TV and it talks about the political race, it says, well, Hillary Clinton had all the black votes, and it's almost like they're grouping it and probably even trying to say that all black people should vote for Hillary Clinton. And I know there's a logistic
black people do
percentage and stuff like that,
but black people do group themselves though, like. We group ourselves. Like we call ourselves the black community. And if you like right now, there's a diversion because as much as people are happy about Kanye West proclaiming to be a Christian, you have equally the same amount of people mad because he won't speak for the black culture. So we group ourselves in that way. We're proud to be black. Like me, I'm just proud to be alive. I don't even care. I could have been purple. As long as I got this mindset and this energy that I have, I'm fine. I could be the only purple person on the planet. Right. I don't care.
And I think the ability to be out of that thinking has been the thing that's been empowering to you, where now I'm the happiest I've ever been because I'm out of a doctrine.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm a white person.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just out of a doctrine that demanded that I have to look, sound, and be a certain way.
Absolutely.
And even if I do leave, though, then you're a wretched sinner. So now you're back to name calling because I don't believe your doctrine. I mean, it's just so strange, but
it is scary when you think about the people that are in power. So all right, let's answer that question where you were talking about, black people being in commercials with white people and things of that nature, everybody looking the part. I think what happens is it goes back to hierarchy overthrow. So there was a time where old white men controlled everything, but eventually everybody dies. and a new set of people start to come up and take their place. And let's just say the old white men that were running everything, let's say a network, news, television, or whatever, they start to die out, and their kids start growing up with more and more diverse people. Mm-hmm. And then as their kids start coming into position, they'll look around and find the best person. They don't care what color their skin is. They just find the best person for the job, because they're not operating from a mindset that only white people can perform this task. Right. Or they're not operating from a mindset that only black people can perform this task. Like for me, the only little cultish I get a little cultish too.
Everybody does.
I get a little cultish when I see an interracial couple. Because I know, not from the standpoint of, like, if I see a black man with a white woman, and I'm not pushing that, but I do know what that black man had to overcome from his own culture to even have the guts enough to do that, because it's not like a lot of
because you've experienced it.
It's not. See, when I walk away from things, I walk away completely. Like, I don't even. I take everything. Like, when I walk away from people, I walk away from people completely. When I walk away from ideas, I walk away completely. And so when I walked away from certain mindsets, I didn't ask anybody for permission. I just walked away. They woke up one day and were like, where is he? I hadn't seen him in years.
Right.
Man, I've been walked away from that.
Well, and I'll tell you, I've kind of struggled a little bit, even like with the no church, thing of completely walking away, because I'm so integrated with so many people, you know, who are pastors or still go to church or stuff like that. So it's kind of this yin and yang. I'm friends with you. I love you. There's one thing that we're not meeting in the middle. I'm seeking to help people. And, I told a friend the other day who was a pastor, I said, don't listen to my podcast. And he goes, why? And I said, because
I don't want it to taint your opinion of me.
Well, and because the thing is like Jesus even said it. He says, I'm not here for the church. He's like, I'm here for the lost. And I think it's funny because what if Kanye West isn't here for the church? He's here for the lost, but the church is trying to say, we accept him or we reject him. Because basically that's what the church did with Jesus. They said, we reject Jesus, let's hang him on the cross.
Yeah.
Which I find is an interesting thing, because I actually asked somebody the other day, I says, if all Jews were to go to heaven and, are the Jews who put Jesus on the cross going to go to heaven? And then is that fair? Because the Jews murdered Jesus and now they get to go to heaven, but somebody doesn't believe the doctrine the way that you do, and so now they're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
Not to shift too much on gears, but what's kind of your view on bad? So, a lot of people have a good and bad point of view, or evil.
It's simple with me.
All right, let's see.
Because you can break down good and bad as much as you want to break it down. Because you can even change the definition of good and bad if you want to get. And people do that when you start talking like this, because they believe that good and bad comes from the Bible, right?
Right.
Okay, so for me, I've never read the Bible in its entirety, but I do know good and bad. I do know right now, and you can say, well, how do you say that's bad? I do know right now, if I lean over the table and punch you, that's bad.
Yes, it is.
If you punch me,
I agree.
If you lean over the table and smack me, that's bad.
Right.
If I take something from you that doesn't belong to me, that's bad. Mm-hmm. If I talk about you in a bad way behind your back, that's bad. Anything that's contributing and subtracting from the essence of who you truly are, whether I'm inflicting pain upon you or whether I'm taking something from you that you rightfully deserve or that doesn't belong to me, that's bad. If, killing, things of that nature, that's bad. And you can say, well, killing, they said, thou shalt not kill is in the Bible too. We all know what's good and bad. Let's not play with words. So my whole thing is, if you go out and you do something that only affects you, It's bad, but it's just bad for you. You know what I mean?
Which happens.
Yeah. If you go out and you do ecstasy all night and you think it's a good idea to jump in your SUV and ride down the wrong side of the interstate, that's bad for you and bad for somebody else because you're putting other people at harm. So I just believe, just don't mess with people. Like, why we gotta mess with people? Like, why do, like, for me to feel like it's okay to reach over there and take something from you, whether it's your happiness or whether it's to inflict physical pain upon you, that's just, to me, that's bad. I don't understand that at all. And, but if you operate from the mindset that it's a dog-eat-dog world, then your ideas of good and bad start to change. Because a lot of times when you operate from that mindset, you start to think, it's either me or them. I got to get them before they get me. And I know a lot of people that think that way. I know a lot of people that probably think that way. Not in my personal life, but majority of the people that I grew up with would think that way. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Either them or me.
Right.
Good and bad, man. Don't do nothing wrong to me. Don't take from me. Don't try to kill me. Don't try to punch me. Who are you to think that it's okay for you to bash my body in? Mm-hmm. Like, chill out. Just chill. Just try to, good and bad, chill. Just chill out.
Chill out.
That's it. It's simple.
Yeah, what is that new Taylor Swift song say? She's like, you come against... I
don't know. I'm a big Taylor Swift... I don't say I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. Mm-hmm. Taylor Swift has features that I find interesting. Personality, bold, not afraid of being criticized, I don't believe. So mm-hmm. I like that type of stuff.
That's awesome. For good to bad, I was trying to come down to this easy mindset too of good and bad and the spiritual story behind it, of heaven and hell and God and devil and stuff like that. And it's weird to me that people make the devil to be equal to God.
Yeah.
So for me, you talked about that cup earlier. You said, this cup is everything God says.
Yeah.
And then the ability to fill that cup on my own effort of what God said is the problem. Because God said, fill this cup. My inability to fill it up all the way is where sin comes in, or bad,
Yeah.
So if I'm unable to fill this because he said fill it, then that's where sin comes in. And I think it's so funny because the devil didn't create sin.
Yeah, I know, right?
The devil fell into sin because he did not fulfill what God wanted him to do. And I even look at it, and people don't realize this, but the devil didn't want to overcome God. He knew he wasn't going to overcome God. He didn't want to serve you. So it basically says this, that angels serve man. So you have an angel, right? And so what happens is that angel is supposed to help serve you, live this life to the best you. Devil was an angel, and he was supposed to, God said, serve man. And the devil didn't want to serve you, and so that's why he fell.
He's like, no,
he didn't want to overcome God.
Yeah.
He wanted to overcome you. And so now what is it, basically the fight is here on earth is
the devil wants you to serve him.
Right. But it's so weird to me that if you think that the devil and God are equal, because for that to happen, that makes sense of why you believe in hell. Because the devil's powerful, more powerful than God, and can take you to hell.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. If God's powerful, why can't he defeat the devil and not let anybody go to hell?
That's my whole thing. Why does the game even exist?
Right. Who said the game even exists?
Exactly.
If the devil goes to hell, then isn't that prove the point that God is better than the devil?
So that's the way we've set it up. We've made it to look like it's a Monopoly game. Let's just say Earth is a game. And there are certain rules of the game. If you do this, this, and that, then you end up over here. If you do this, this, and that, you end up down here. Okay. So Let's talk about Monopoly. The creators of Monopoly could have easily taken the do not go to jail part out of it.
Right.
They could have easily just put, so they could have easily just said, well, no matter what you land on, you're good.
Right. No rent to be charged.
That's right.
Only buy, only have success.
Just sit here and experience.
Right. No bad.
Now you're at the beach. What are you doing here? Now you're at the bank. What are you doing here? So if there is a hell, then the person that created the board game is equally is responsible for it.
Wow, good point.
So is God good or bad? Because if God is good, you got to ask yourself, why does the dichotomy even exist? Why is there the possibility of a heaven and the possibility of a hell? If I created the board game, the universe, life, it's me that gets to say who is able to have a presence here and not. Mm-hmm. So if I created good and evil, then I must be good and also evil. Because if I go over right now to an ant bed and I kick over the ant bed and I pull out an ant and I go over to my table and I light a fire to it and I just boil that ant's head until it pops. Pop. Okay, I could have chose not to do that.
True.
I could have chose to leave those ants alone. In fact, I have another thing where I like to bring ant food.
Feed your pets?
I feed my pets. Yeah. I'll go find worms, and as a peace offering, which is why I believe I never get bit by ants now. As a peace offering, I thump the ant bed and let them know I'm here.
Lay the sacrifice of the...
Here you go. You do not have to come in my house this month.
So you're kind of like God, laying down the sacrifice of Jesus Christ.
Let me reward... Look at this immaculate dirt mansion that you guys have constructed over the past 24 hours. This is amazing. You need to be rewarded for that because you're serving some kind of queen down there. Let me go take this worm that exists on the other side of my grass, which is the other side of the world for that ant, and let me deliver it here. I can get here in like 2 seconds. Here you go. So I know I got off track a little bit, but what I'm getting at is that if I'm powerful, we have to think about power and what that really means. We as human beings don't even we're so ruined that we don't even like to take credit for the fact that we can call other human beings into existence.
Right.
We say, well, like I was talking to my son one day. He was like, well, God created me. I was like, dude, I did that. Like me and your mom did.
His mom high-fived.
I mean, you came out of me. Right. Now we can talk about whether or not God allowed that to happen or not. That's another case. But women are so powerful, they can create other human beings inside of their body and walk around with it. That is weird. That's power. So if we as human beings have that power that we can create other human beings, let's talk about the realization of a God. If I'm powerful enough to create worlds, I'm also, don't you think I'm powerful enough to say, devil, get out of here. Hell, get out of here. I didn't mean for that to be included into this recipe. Why are we still battling with the devil? Why are we still battling with hell? I think that when we try drugs and hallucinogens and all of these things, I think that it opens up a portal inside of us that aspect of our psyche then lets in the possibility of those type of energies. It's portals that we tap into. And what's happened is a lot of people are born with aspects of those portals already open because we become indoctrinated from the moment we enter the world. we're starting to be told, we're told about the original sin. Like when I heard about the original sin, I was like, what? What did I do? What did I do? So the thing is, for man to pay for the sin of one person years ago, Ben, that's the same thing black people are doing to white people. They're trying to hold the white people that exist today for the things that the white people that existed years ago done.
Interesting.
That's the same thing Middle Eastern countries are doing. They're holding each other accountable for things that they're in. We have the same cycle, the same story repeating itself over and over again. Let me show you how dirty you are for the sins of the men that came before you. That's stereotyping. If you say, Robbie, all black people go to jail, or Robbie, all black people steal, or Robbie, all black people do this, that's stereotyping. So why is it okay? Why is that not okay? But it's okay for me to say you're a sinner. I don't know nothing about you.
That's stereotyping.
That's stereotyping.
Right.
So what we have is a loss of meaning because man is doing all the translations. This is why I don't subscribe to tribes, because I cannot trust the translation of men.
Well, it's interesting to me. I try to look at, sometimes we make this thing so spiritually hokey that it doesn't make common sense to me. You said one of the things, and we weren't even on the subject, you talked about your son, and you said, I don't ask my son to worship me all day. I don't. Have him ask for forgiveness or apologize or, live the way that I want him to live.
But a lot of men do.
Well, and I will say this. So, because I followed a doctrine, and the doctrine would say, as a man, I'm the head of the household, and I am going to have to have an account. I'm going to be judged by God for what my kids did and didn't do, which is a dangerous doctrine, because now it's not, did I accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior of my life, which is also doctrinal, that now I have to live perfect, ask for forgiveness, and have everybody else around me live perfect. So if somebody around me doesn't live perfect, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Because then you're blaming me and I'm going to be judged. Well, then shouldn't we be blaming Adam, like you said?
Absolutely.
Or should we be blaming Jesus now? Because
what about
Jesus
the devil?
Or the devil, right. So, to me, that's where it says this thing pokes holes. There's too many holes in doctrinal things. So I thought, again, I just kind of have to rely on the things I see around me. The Bible says that you, Robbie, were made in the image of God. Okay? Poosh, that's a mindset. All right. So if Robbie's made in the image of God, and Robbie doesn't demand that his kids worship him or live under him or do these things, I don't make my kids do the same thing. I see other people not making their kids do the same thing, and when they do, it's usually a doctrinal thing.
Yeah, it is.
I see church people, and they treat their kids very poorly, in my perspective, because they're trying to get them to achieve the doctrine also at such a young, early age. But I say, if Robbie doesn't do it, I don't do it. I see other people not doing it. Then why do I put a demand or thought that God's doing it? I mean, listen, there's people been in heaven and everything like that. God's got lots of angels worshiping him.
Yeah.
We were in heaven before we came here. We were worshiping him. We were getting along. We were doing relationship. Why does he need us to come now on earth and start worshiping him? Did he make us so that we would live out our lives just worshiping him? Did you have the thought in your head when you procreated your babies, they're going to worship me, they're going to live unto me, they're going to honor me all the days of their life, but again, you were made in the likeness and image and thought and mind and body of God, and you don't do that. So it doesn't give me a clear, correct representation of God.
Yeah.
I've got to say, well, if Robbie doesn't do that to his kids, I don't do that to my kids, and why do we say God's doing that to his kids?
And we're only men.
We're only men. So that makes us better than God.
We're only just obsolete men. And if we have the ability to think like that as men, I'm pretty sure a God just does not care about whether how do you know God hasn't created other universes that he's more interested in than ours?
Well, we're pretty valuable as people, so I think he's pretty interested in us. To send Jesus Christ, here to die for us, that says one thing. But, so...
But how do we know he hasn't sent him to other planets and other galaxies and other... You know what I mean?
Well, I do. I mean, I actually think that there are other planets and galaxies and all that, but it's ready for us. Okay, let me put it like this. Can I put it like this? Let me put it out there. So if I hire a painter, I'm not going to give him my whole house to paint.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? I'm going to say, hey, come paint this room.
Yeah.
Why? I'm going to test him out, see how he does. Does he show up? Is he a little sloppy? Because I'm not going to pay $10,000 to have my whole house painted and give him money in advance and all that. I pay him $500 for a room.
Yeah.
My thought is that God put us all on earth because it's one room.
Yeah.
But he has the whole universe ready for us.
I'm going to start a painting company when I leave this room today.
You should.
Call it Southern Painters.
Southern Painters. And so here's the thing is did God do something small? We look at the world as huge. But if he did something small, and then after that, after the devil's flicked away and hell's flicked away and all these things are flicked away and he has mankind and he says, there's no more sin, there's no more unrighteousness, there's no more punishment, all these things. Now let's go live in the whole universe together. And that's where I kind of think. I do not think that, Elon Musk's desire to go to Mars is, I believe, the plan of the future of God saying, let's go to all these other universes.
I like that.
Like, how's Elon Musk have the plan of this exploration in other universes and it not be God's desire for us to explore these other universes? Even if I think it's almost even the enticing of heaven.
Yeah.
Man, the possibility of someday going to other universes, like Ricky's big on photography. And so he's got to get a camera set up to look at the universes and stuff like that. You have the Hubble and you have these satellites and stuff like that. But what if it's the carrot stick and the enticing of God saying, you'll see it live face to face someday. You'll be able to transport in space. And I know that sounds Wi-Fi, but just even our desire to say, oh, that's beautiful. I want to be a part of that. I want to be there. God saying,
I think
that is my heaven that I've already prepared for you to enter into one day. All mankind will be able to have the full control of this whole entire universe.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Like, I think that, like, my whole mindset now is like, if everything I receive, I say that's a private message for me. And I'll share it, but I don't think the world should subscribe to it. And I think Kanye West is in a very cool spot, but a very dangerous one too. Because if he becomes the new leader, and what I think a lot of people that are not in church will start to gravitate towards him. And if he's not really mentally stable, it could be a whole lot that comes with that as well. So I think we have to be very mindful of anybody that we choose to follow. I think the moment you become a fan. Like there's like with some people there is not anything they could do wrong. Their leader could do wrong to make them not be a fan. A lot of times they could say anything. I heard somebody say, if Donald Trump right now went over there and punched that kid in the face, would you stop voting for him? And the lady was like, no, I'll probably still vote for him. So I just want people to start, like, we have to get to a point where we start trusting in ourselves more. Because we easily think that something outside of us has the something outside of us has the answers for our life. Like, we don't think that we're equipped enough to solve our own problems and to to come into contact with our own mission in life and our own purpose in life. Like, it has to come from some charismatic leader. And I think this is dangerous because we're all humans. And, the moment you start following me and saying that I'm your leader, the moment, even if I'm just the most amazing man ever and the most transparent man ever and the most well-intentioned man ever, at some point it's going to get to me and I'm going to start thinking, I can just say anything and I can do anything. I'm the king.
Well, I mean, that's, I think, what happened with church doctrine, right? So they made church doctrine and then people came back every week. And then people started giving their money every week. And then people started talking like that every week. And, I have to tell people, you have to be a little guarded because what if a pastor got hurt, or his father's mother cheated on one another. So then he starts talking. And that's affected
this whole
right.
speech.
So then he's mad about it. So then he's saying one thing. And that, I think you're 100% right. I would rather have people back to in him you live, move, and have your being than in Ben's doctrine, in Robbie's doctrine, in the doctrine of this church, in the doctrine of that church, in the doctrine of Kanye West. Why can't we high five Kanye West for the doctrine he has? He high fives me back for the doctrine I have. I high five you for the doctrine you have. Like, why can't we all be our own individual person in him we live, move, and have our being?
I think that's the problem. Like, we even if you're an atheist, you want everybody else to be an atheist.
Because then you think it's right.
Yeah. If you're a Christian, you want everybody else to be a Christian.
If I agree with you, now you're right on that situation.
That's the problem, because there was a point in time where I was like, I'm just an atheist. And then I started looking at that. I'm like, damn, this feels just like the church. All we do is sit around and talk about how they got it wrong and how we're right and how science is God.
Right.
And it's like, this is the same thing over and over again. And I'm what they call a buffet guy. If I go to a buffet, doesn't mean I have to eat everything that they cook. I want some of these greens. I want some of this rice. I don't want the meat. And so that's what I do. You probably won't get credit for it, so you have to be self-sustaining emotionally and pat yourself on the back a lot of times, because you don't get credit for being an independent in this world by any party. Not one single party, not from Republicans, not from Democrats, not from Christians, not from atheists, not from Buddhists. You don't get credit at all for being an independent. So you have to be strong inside of yourself and know that you are on the right path for you. And so if I go around, the language that I use in my day-to-day life, if I use that around a bunch of hardcore atheists, they'd say, no, dude, you're religious. Hate to tell you, you are. Like, we don't even talk like that.
The things you would say.
If I go around Christians and I talk the language that I use in my day-to-day life, they'll say, dude, you're a non-believer. You're an atheist. And so I've never fit in with anything. Right. If I go around predominantly black people, they'll say, man, you think you white. If I go around black people, if I go around black people, they'll say, you think you're white. If I go around black people, they probably say, you think you're white too. But that's because we have an idea of what
we think white and black and Democrat and Republican
exactly.
and church and God and atheists all think.
Absolutely. Right. So I'm an independent, and I think I love being an independent in every facet of life. And I'm so happy, because for me, that's self-awareness. It's like, that's self-awareness, like to know that I'm not too hung up on different ideologies. I'm not too hung up on, like, I love that I can watch a football game and I don't care who wins. I'm just watching the game because it's a game. I don't care who wins. I don't have a team.
Right. For me, I like that definition of a spiritual buffet, because I'm not a Democrat. I haven't voted Democratic. I haven't voted Republican or independent either. But, some of the things the Democrats say, and I hope it's true, where they basically talk about we're all equal. We're all. I like that message of all from the Democrats. I like the message of prosperity from the Republicans. I like the message of Jesus and the sacrifice that he did from churches. I like the ideas also that the atheists bring in, that there's a bigger world.
You
out
better
there.
watch out with that.
Well, like the atheists are like, well, I don't think there's one God, and I do believe there's one God, but to them their mindset is look at the whole world. I'm not looking at a doctrine. I think it's sometimes like you're so narrow, like I only eat chicken, and that's what I'm saying. I like the idea that they can stretch their mind to think about all the possibilities.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. Is the Bible says that you know in part, you see in part, you hear in part, you think in part. And so from a spiritual standpoint of a buffet, peas are one part of a diet, not of your whole diet. Corn. You can have sweet corn, you could have corn on the cob, you could have street corn, you could have Cajun corn, and that's what I'm saying is maybe I don't like Cajun corn, but I like sweet corn.
That's
maybe
right.
I like beans, maybe I like peas, maybe I like, and why not celebrate that we can take different things.
Yeah.
And still believe in the same God of love.
Yeah.
And get to the same place. Like, I think, that's like, Robbie, start dressing like me, act like me, talk like me, be like me, so that we can get to the same place. Well, guess what? You can get in your car, I can get in my car, and we can let's go to the mall.
Yeah.
And we can take totally different ways. We can listen to totally different things. We can drive different styles and get to the same point.
Yeah.
But we don't believe that spiritually.
And that's the same. That's the crazy part about it. And it's like, to me, it's like we don't even have to hang out. Like we can and not hate each other. Like I have family that I don't hang out with, that we're family, biologically, but we don't hang out. We got two different things going on. I don't hate them. I still love them. Just don't hang out. And I think that that's the world that I live in, to where I'm not trying to make myself like everybody. I love everybody from the standpoint that just loving everybody is convenient for me. Like I just don't have time to hate people. And that's it. Like it's not that I'm Mother Teresa. It just literally hurts my body to be mad at somebody. Like I can feel it. Like I can't do it. And so it's just how I live. To me, it's just like real simple. I'm gonna be honest. I'm waiting on the rest of the world to catch up. To really be honest with you, like it feels like I live in. To me, I feel like I woke up in an alternative universe. I'm like, what? You still think black and white is a thing? You still think your religion is better than this religion? Like it's all the same to me. Like it's all. I give you kudos for being able to follow it. Like to me, it's like I look at ants, and I wonder, do they have an ant god that they all gather and talk about, and like talk about, and like, all right, every day at this time we got to pray to the ant god. They do have a queen that they serve, a leader, but I wonder, do they have a mindset that we have? And it's easy to write it off and say, no, they can't think, Robbie. But yeah, they can't think to us because they're communicating differently than us. Our antennas don't tune into the language that they're operating on. But I think like that. I look at the birds. I look at the animals and the insects of the world, and I think, like, do they even get this complicated with things? Like, I think simplicity is just overlooked because it's so simple. But for me, it's simple. I get up, I wake up every day. I start immediately expressing gratitude for the fact that I'm here. I like planet Earth, and particularly I love living in the United States of America. I've never served in the armed forces, but I have a deep appreciation for anybody that has and anybody that is. I don't care about your skin color. Like, genuinely, I don't. I don't think white is more superior than black. I don't think black is more superior than white. And I know there's other people in town too. But I just don't have the mindset of a victim. I'm so happy that my mom raised me that way. I don't even know if she tried, because a lot of my stuff is radical to even her. Like, what? But I'm just so happy that I've had the life experiences that I've had, that I'm happy inside of myself, that I can just wake up and just feel comfortable knowing that, like, I know who I am. I have self-awareness. I know who I am. I know what I think, and I know that I'm willing to stretch my mind about different things. I think it's very simple.
Well, you know, like the thing with Kanye West, just kind of finishing up in that line of, what I love about him is he's running it. He's doing it. He wants to do it. This is what he wants to do. You know, you're doing a podcast. You know, you're pushing out there. We're doing a podcast. Like, that's what I really want to see is, I'm not against the church. I want more churches, you know, but I don't want it from the standpoint of one person over everybody. Saying this is what you believe. I want it from a standpoint of a person saying, hey, this is the way I feel, or this is what I want to do, and start a ministry, start a home church, start something with their friends or family or people that think like them. I mean, if you think about this, what we've done in the last 3 weeks, right? So we did my birthday party, then we went out to another dinner, and then we went out to a friend's house. And in 3 weeks, we just hung out. And I told my wife, I said, what if that's what church looked like? It was just, you get along with 10 families. You go, you celebrate, you shoot off some fireworks, you eat some seafood, you just enjoy life together. And what do? We talked about situations, problems, possibilities, kids. We talked about all these things. We counseled each other. We talked about God and, you know, feelings and hurts and pains and sufferings. And we talked about all of these things and connected together 10 families. You know, what if that was church?
It was.
Right.
It is.
It is.
I mean, and it wasn't too thought out. You know, it was just, let's gather. It's kind of like these podcasts we're going to do. I had no idea what we were going to talk about today. I had a desire inside of me. You had that same desire. And we said, let's just do it. And I think that's what it's about, you know, just collaboration. Just being willing to hang out with people that you get along with, you know, being willing to hear everybody's perspective. Like when I hear people talk about God, there used to be a time, I think all of us were operated from a mindset of being rigid. So there used to be a time when I heard people talk about God, I'm like, man, that just sounds absolutely crazy. You know, I'm like, what? Him? But when I hear people talk about God today, I think, how amazing. That's awesome. That's phenomenal. I'm really listening to what they have to say. And I don't say, you know what, I'm going to go start talking like that tomorrow, you know. But I'm just willing to hear it and really take from it what is valuable for me. And from what I found is when people are talking about God from a point of view where they're not being judgmental, where they're talking about how God has impacted their life in such a positive way and how if you're open to it, he can do the same thing for you. I see no harm in that. It goes back to the cup. It could be good or bad. People can use God for good. People can use God for bad. A person can easily come up to you and say, you know what, this is what God done for me, man. You need to really get it together because God ain't happy with you right now. God is going to do this to you if you don't do this. If you don't start praying to God this way and talking to God this way, then you're going to hell. Now that's using God as a weapon. And I think there's two groups of people when it comes to spirituality. People that use God as a blessing and people that use God as a weapon. And a lot of times when people are using God as a weapon, they're not using God as a weapon to defend themselves. They're using God as a weapon to bash other people with. And I think it's hurtful. I think it's disrespectful. And I think it's not godly. I think it's more, I think if you believe in the devil is also a god. If you believe in that, maybe a mini god, but you have people that serve him or her or it too. And so I think that when you use God as a weapon, you're using the devil, really.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, if you're coming at it from judgment, like if I were to say, man, Robbie, that Ricky is the most abusive, backstabbing,
tank top wearing.
If I were to totally talk bad about him and say you don't need to be friends with him, or stuff like that, you'd say, man, I've met Ricky. I've talked to him. I've hung out with him. I didn't get that interpretation at all.
Yeah.
You would question me and say, well, why is he saying that?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the question people should be asking themselves of, why am I saying such bad things about people, about God? Why am I separating? See, like they use it as, I'm going to say something bad about you to draw you in. But God says the love of God draws all men to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't say
the criticism,
your judgment, your criticism, your doctrine, your pushing away, your demands. It doesn't say any of that. But we use that all the time, and we call it spiritual. You know? And so I love that point. I think that's a great point. If you're talking with those tones, you're probably more so talking from the tones of the devil. Yeah,
you're pushing people away. You don't get your wife to do the dishes by criticizing her for not doing them.
Oh, I have, and it does
not good.
Not last long.
No,
and
it doesn't.
She hates me for it.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to tell you that. I bet let me just use that standpoint. I used to yell at my wife, and she would go and she'd clean, and she really hated herself. She's like, man, my husband doesn't feel like I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And I'd hear that all the time, and it made me broken inside. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you that's why people are leaving church. 65 million people have left the church because they feel like they're not good enough for the church because the church keeps putting that bitter poison on them, and they feel like they're not good enough.
I wonder what's
mental illness.
It is. That's exactly it. Mental dis-ease is a mind that's not at ease. And I think when we're telling people they're not good enough, we're just pointing out that thing inside of us that we feel we're not good enough either. So we're translating that to other people. When we feel like we're good enough, when we feel like the more I love myself, the more I love my wife. The more forgiving I am towards myself, the more forgiving I am towards my wife. The more forgiving and loving I am towards my kids. And I think when we spend more time trying to work on ourselves and be the best version of ourselves, we naturally translate that into our relationships. We transfer that same energy and mindset into the people that we come in contact with.
I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, and it's through the message of grace because it eased off the pressure on me. once it eased off the pressure on me, I realized, whoa, I need to ease off the pressure on other people.
Yeah.
I need to ease off the pressure on my wife, ease off the pressure of my kids, ease off the people who working with me and around me and stuff like that. But when I had the demand on me, then I'm gonna put the demand on you.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think we were. The Bible says, Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and light." Easy and light. And so
that sounds like something Hammer Jack Johnson would say.
Hammer Jack Johnson. And so that's what I'm saying is there is a message out there of ease and light and love and forgiveness. And that's the message I want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of the message of you're going to hell. I'm better. I'm better than you. I'm going to heaven. You're going to hell.
I hate to tell you this, brother, but I'm better than you. You know what I mean?
It's crazy, but it's a big message that's been pushed for years and years, and I think it's coming to the forefront. And I think 65 million people who've left church in the last 3 years, and I know I keep saying it because it's a real, true thing.
Yeah.
And that's the people I want to speak to. I want to speak to the 65 million who don't have a pastor, who have questions, who want to ask me questions, ask themselves questions, ask other people questions. I believe in the possibility that God called you to greatness, not because of the church you go to, because of who you are in Him. I think you have a message to say. I think you have something to share. I think you have a community of people and believers that you can create in your town. I'm for you. I believe in you. If you want to sing and be like Kanye West, go sing and be like Kanye West. If you want to write books, go write books. If you want to have a small home church, have a small home church. If you want to do prison ministry, do prison ministry. If you want to be a missionary, be a missionary. Do those things. Stop waiting for the church to say you're good enough. I declare today, Jesus Christ has called you good enough. You are valuable, important. You are enough for the work that He's called you to do. Go do the work. It's not going to be perfect right off the gate. You're going to have to grow. You're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to make some changes along the way. You're going to have some ups and downs, hurdles, but don't we all? We see it in Kanye West. He's now getting attacked and have hurdles and getting talked against of the church. Guess what? When you move outside of the church, you're going to get talked about against the church. Jesus moved outside of the church. He got talked against the church. Rules and regulations. If you get talked about from the church, that's good news. You're doing the right thing. You're right. You're in the right position. Jesus left the temple, and so did John the Baptist, and so did Kanye West, and so did I. And if you do too, I will support you in all things that you do. Any closing words?
Trust yourself and believe that you have enough intelligence inside of yourself to find out who you truly are, what you are called to do, and just be brave enough to live with it, to own it, to share it, not to force it down other people's throats, but just discover who you truly are and live it. That's it. It's kind of like my good friend Jimmy Hennessy say, live it.
Until next time.